you should not facilitate your own club. The same thing here. We have a specialist in our group when it comes to training, and that is past district governor Glenn Vanderford, who is a member, charter member of the old Hickory Rotary Club in Jackson, Tennessee. And he served as district governor 2005-2006 in his district 67-60, and there was one of the initiators to their multi-district pets organization. We are fortunate to have our own Wilf Wilkinson here, and as we all know, Wilf has an eye for talent, and thus he appointed Glenn to be chair of 2 committees. That was one of the fun things in Wilf's year, that there were international conferences, small conferences in different topics. Carol and I actually attended one not in Tennessee, in Philadelphia, but Glenn was chairing one about membership and strategic planning, and one in disaster relief summit. Both were held in what they consider the Evanston of the South, which is Nashville. Glenn was also Wilf's representative at the district conference in district 6950 in Clearwater Beach, Florida. That was 2008. Glenn's that. And then he, like Bob Wallace, has been a representative of his district at the Council of Legislation twice, actually. So he must have done either something very good, or they felt that he needs to learn better. I don't know which one it was. I'm sure that he did a great job. So with that, as I said, Glenn and I got to know each other on this review committee of the visioning program. Glenn is the Vision Council's zone director for Zone 3031. And with that, Glenn, we will let you take the lead. But when it comes to questions, we have decided that we ask everyone to be muted and let Glenn run the show. He will make a pause sort of halfway through the presentation, and then we can ask questions. There is a chat room for questions too, and then we will have a discussion afterwards. And as I said, we will come back and I will tell you what we plan to do. So we should be done by 11, so you can continue with the rest of the day. So thank you all for coming, and Glenn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lars. I appreciate it. I'm very honored to participate in this, to have that invitation. It's been an enjoyment working with Lars and the others on the executive committee of the International Visioning Facilitation Team and the council, which y'all are a part of. And we appreciate each and every one of y'all's and your involvement today. As I understand, there's several that have participated in visioning events in past times, in past years, and then I'm excited to be able to conduct this overview about developing that roadmap to success and what the benefits of just creating a visioning within a club really means. As I served as Rotary coordinator some time ago for Rotary International, 3 different years, I realized that visioning was such a key component to even membership development and retaining, attracting new members and retaining members. I'm going to get into that, how this plays as a very important tool that can be utilized. Again, I'm honored. Wilf Wilkinson has joined us. Enjoyed working with him back in 2007 and 8. He, as president of Rotary International at that time, with the theme Rotary Shares, and he surely did, and we appreciate how he continues to work along with Rotary International in a very special way. So thank you, and for that honor to be able to serve with you at that time and even now. It's wonderful. As Lars mentioned, we have gone through a lot of changes with the International Visioning Facilitation Council due to COVID that hit some close to 2 years ago now. It really allowed us an opportunity to sit back and have to kind of redevelop what we were doing, and we've come out with some new materials. So I will touch on the new materials as well once I go through the overview itself, and the importance of, well, we've added a few new roles to the team, which I know District 7070, of which you're a part, is in the development stage of building a new team with those that have served in the past that are interested to still stay on board, or with new people that would like to reach out, expand your impact throughout your district in this very special way, because it is very helpful in many ways. Of course, Rotary is not an organization for retrospection. It is rather one whose worth and purpose lie in future activities rather than in the past. This was a statement back in the 1940s from Paul Harris, one of the Rotary International founders at that time. And to think of, how very much important that our organization, even down to the club level, it really is critical that they look toward the future for the activities to participate in their wonderful programs and projects to build on the service and fellowship that we have within the organization. I want to frame the club visioning presentation, this overview, with a state of membership. And I received this information from Rotary International just as an update that I want to share. But globally, we're at 1.4 million members. Thank goodness, back in like when Bob's also served and others as on the council and legislation, opened up the membership to Rotaractors, and that does enhance. So we have over 46,000 Rotarians and 46,000 Rotary clubs and Interact clubs around the world to be a part of our wonderful group. Actually, there's over 1 million. We've always been hearing that 1.2 million Rotarians. Well, of course, now with the addition of over 220,000 Rotaractors to our organization, like say, and 10,000 more additional clubs, it does put us over that 46,000 mark. We do still have a lot of room for growth, especially in Rotary with more women. We have 24% of our membership is women. And so I know each and every club need to reach out and expand and invite more women to our organization. I would like to share some of the membership trends over the last 10 years. You'll see here in North America, Canada, the United States, and the Caribbean, that the last 10 years, we still have had falling off in numbers. Actually, a decline of around 20% is in the trend. But the Asian countries actually have gone up. We've had the decline down in Australia. So as I mentioned, that going on up to 1.4 million Rotarians and Rotaractors and 46,000 Rotary clubs and Rotaract clubs around the year. If we weren't expanding into other parts of the world, now you'll see the blue line there showing that Europe is pretty much holding its own. It has a slight decrease of about 3%, but holding its own in a sense. But the expansion of Rotary International, as well as the inclusion of Rotaractors to our ranks as parts of Rotarians and being counted, it does allow us to grow in number. These are some of the figures again to follow through, which I was just stating. So since 2011, here we have fallen off the last 10 years quite sizably. So I think it really requires a serious look, and always has been, but continued strong look at that. I got some fresh figures, let's say, as of the last full Rotary year of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th of 2021. We've brought in 138 new members, but we've had 150,000 to leave. Majority of those, I hate to say, left within their first year. Actually, in many cases, we had like 13,000 to leave within that very first year. Now, to come up with that 150, that meant we also lost 137,000 members that have been in for some time. For some, can't help it due to death, and some just the moving to other parts and have not rejoined Rotary clubs, things of this sort. So we have had that loss, and it is real critical. Actually, we've been doing a good job, and especially even during the COVID time too, of getting new members, 138,000. But we have not done as good a job engaging our members and keeping them. So having 150,000 members leave through the revolving door, that's what we really need to watch and take care of. Now, as I mentioned, a good job in recruiting new members, attracting them, offering various new ways to have Rotary clubs, new models, and actually envisioning events. We share these membership models with the districts and the clubs, so they may have them, and to think about either starting new clubs, whether it be through satellite clubs or e-clubs and various other ways of gaining new members. But again, the engagement is a critical factor that we must really, in order to retain our members. So we need to know what our customers want. In many cases, you may think that the Lions Club or the Kiwanis Club or the Exchange Group, that they're our main competition. But no, our competition is actually time and money, and it's really critical for us to provide our Rotarians value in order for them to stay and be involved. So we must continue to have, whether it be in person or to have on Zoom, for instance, really good programs and projects for you to do within your communities or internationally, and the fellowship and service, to mean so much to value to a Rotarian as well. So as I mentioned, visioning is just an excellent membership tool. It's an item that allows us to find out from our customers, our members, what they really want to make it worth the drive each and every week to come to their Rotary meeting or to tune in on Zoom, as many of y'all have even done today, to be a part of it. So really critical. And why I say that, make it worth the drive, a dear friend, Rotarian friend of mine, who owns a furniture store in rural West Tennessee, outside of Memphis, just south of Jackson, where I live, here in the Mid-South. He puts his TV ads. And if you go down to little Selmer, Tennessee, and it's a wonderful store. To walk in his store, you can smell the fresh baked cookies there, as you enter the showroom. And you go down Main Street, USA, just like you're walking down, through Disney World, in the various different shops and departments that he's set up to attract their customers into it. Yes, he makes it worth the drive to drive an hour or so to come to the store. Well, that's what we need to do within our own Rotary clubs to, again, provide that value to our members to make it worth the drive each and every week for them to participate. Now, several of you have already seen envisioning events, this particular slide and a few of these others. If you don't know where you're going, chances are you will end up someplace else by Yogi Berra. And that's true. That's why it's so critical for Rotary clubs to really be focused, to have that vision, find out what their members want to do, and to set forth some type of strategic plan for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years out, you know, and to revisit that and find out what their members want. And the great thing about a visioning event is you as a Rotarian, especially y'all that are considering and being a part of the District 77 visioning team, you're one of the ones that help that club figure which way to go. And I tell you, as I drive up and down Interstate 40 throughout the heart of America here in the Mid-South, it can be kind of confusing at times on some of the off-ramps of which way to go. But this way, these Rotarians within their own clubs can help build a roadmap to success. You can help serve as a GPS for that club to proceed. And it's so very important that the club members and all of them are pulling in the same direction with a common sense of destination in mind. So, like back when Bob, very familiar, and others with the Rotary International Visioning Statement, together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. So we reveal this and let the Rotarians in the local club know so they can have an ownership of what Rotary International's vision statement is. And we challenge them to come up with their own. They may utilize this, but they can definitely form their own visioning statement, which I'll get into and show, to eventually even have maybe a mission statement of a local Rotary club. Of course, Rotary's core values still remain in service and fellowship, diversity, integrity, and ethics, and one's own personal and professional way of life, and then the leadership opportunities. Many of y'all are leaders within your own club or within your district, and I salute you for doing that and to helping others come along that path of leadership, building to a future, a successful future in Rotary. Now, I'd like to point out Rotary International's action plan. It's basically 4 steps to increase our impact, to expand our reach, to enhance participant engagement within our membership, and to increase our ability to adapt. I kind of highlight the various ones and how they are so important. And we want to stress this in vision events also to our Rotarians so they are aware of what the Rotary Action Plan is all about. For many, many years, of course, Rotary International has been involved in the eradication of polio, and to build that legacy to continue on with the success. It's amazing to see only 5 cases this past year in 2021. I remember chartered in 1979, then RI President Jim Bomar came and spoke to the Jackson Hole Hickory Rotary Club that particular charter night. And he talked about the very first immunization days they were doing in the Philippines. That was part of the 3H program, Health, Hunger, and Humanities, and to go and inoculate the children in the Philippines. At that particular time in the 70s, there was over 1,000 cases a day, 350,000 cases a year, and 3 countries around the world. Now it's pretty much down to only 2 countries, and thank goodness only 5 cases this past year. So yes, we are so very close in eradicating polio worldwide. So yes, to increase our impact, to continue on with our efforts of polio eradication, but also focus on other wonderful programs with the Rotary Foundation, projects that they're within, and whether it be supported by you personally and your local Rotary Club reaching out and doing wonderful things for the Rotary Foundation. To expand our reach, to help grow our membership, the diversity of Rotary. You know what, the growth of membership, like I mentioned, we're pretty successful, but we can continue to increase that. And it's very vital that we do that. To create new channels for, you know, such as I mentioned earlier, the satellite clubs or various other models that Rotary clubs can be formed, or you as Rotarians can be involved with Rotary action groups or fellowships, various other things of this sort, and to help reach out and build that awareness to within your own community through public image, public awareness. The importance, as I go back to the enhanced participant engagement, you know, to offer your club members through visioning a chance to voice their opinions of what they'd like to see over the next 1, 2, 3 years, and to offer new opportunities. Don't always do the same old thing, just thinking that is what everybody in the club wants. That doesn't mean don't cut out the successful thing, but look at the new exciting things. Even look to the new members that are bringing great new ideas to the table. Plus, provides leadership opportunity and skills for training, such as the partnership that Mark Maloney and Rotary International a couple of years ago rolled out, the partnership with Toastmasters. Or many Rotary clubs and districts are involved with Rotary Leadership Institute or various other wonderful leadership training organizations such as that. And then, of course, the 4th priority is increasing our ability to adapt. Now, I don't have to really talk a lot about that, except for COVID-19. I guess some of the benefits of that, even though I wish we had not ever been addressed to COVID-19, but it did, even with the IVFC, the Visioning Council, it did give us time to sit back and really focus and realize the emphasis that we need to do, not only in person type meetings, but also online type meetings, such as this Zoom, and to carry our product forward to enhance and help the Rotary clubs even better. 2 years ago, President Holger Knock from Germany addressed the International Assembly, and he talked about how he would like every Rotary club to have a strategic meeting at least once a year, where they can want to study where they want to be in 5 years and know what value it brings to their members. So he mentioned and talks about how very important visioning is. Now, during this time, the last 2 years, in designing, let's say, visioning, for instance, Rotary did put a strong emphasis in aligning its materials to Rotary International's action plan. So to really stress the continuity of what the 4 priorities throughout the process is with visioning. We've changed the writing exercise, and I'll touch on that as well, to adapt to these 4 priorities. And then to, above all, to also help the Rotarians connect with Rotary International and realize what the Rotary Action Plan is all about, to increase that, our impact, expand our reach, to enhance membership engagement and increase our ability to adapt. Now, as I mentioned, it's real critical that we now have, or still can in some cases, that those that do meet in person safely, safeguards with bearing in mind social distancing and the constraints set forth in registry of the local communities. But as many of you are aware, there was the original 4-hour visioning event where people would come together, whether it be after work, let's say at 5 o'clock, and meet until about 9 o'clock that evening, starting with a little snack dinner and the writing exercise and the extraction of all the great ideas the club would like to have, and going on into coming up with the vote and the prioritizing what the outcomes of their vote, with a summary of what a particular club like to be doing over the next 1, 2, 3 years. But then what we've done is added now the virtual option available. We don't suggest to do the virtual option in 4 hours. We suggest it to be done in about 2 different sessions. One taking about 2.5 hours. The other would take about an hour or hour and a half. I would put these about 2 days or a week apart from one another when you do the virtual sessions. I'll get in and explain that a little bit further. Again, as I mentioned, we have aligned our materials to the Rotary International Action Plan, and we are providing not only this new platform virtually, but the tools to go along with it. The training information about like Zoom or about SurveyMonkey and various other wonderful tools that are more meaningful to help build that road to success. So we still encourage the clubs to fill out the RVQ, which is a Rotary Visioning Questionnaire, which is a survey sent out to all the Rotary members of that said club to voice their opinion of where they think the club stands or what the attributes of the club are, things of this sort. We send out the writing exercise, which has been revised and again aligned with the Rotary International Action Plan. We encourage them to send that out in advance, maybe a couple of weeks in advance of the event. Of course, you definitely got to send it out in advance if you're going to do it virtually. In the past, many times we just handed it out at the event when they came, that whether it be that evening 4-hour session or that Saturday morning type session. This way, we provide you a written exercise that is a PDF form that is fillable, and the Rotarian in the comforts of their home or office can sit down at their own convenience and fill out the writing exercise for them to have and utilize during the Zoom event, or bring it to an in-person event if you end up able to do that, hopefully in the future. Of course, we still go through the formulation of helping form a vision event itself. Now, why a vision is needed, you know, our club leadership changes every year, you know, and there's no need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, there's not too many very successful businesses that, let's say, let go their top leaders, you know, in their corporations each and every year. But in a way, Rotary International does, and brings in new leadership. And that's why it's also really critical to have that vision, a multi-year coordinated plan in order for that club to follow, you know, to continue on. And it provides continuity and consistency and consensus of its membership. because you've allowed either the board or all the members to have an input and to vote about what they'd like to do over the next 1, 2, 3 years. Now, what is a club vision itself? It's a living management tool with that shared commitment from the group, and it provides that long-term direction and helps establishes those goals and objectives, but it does optimize our resources. So it allows you as a district team to provide those clubs information about the Rotary Foundation, about membership development, as well as public image, public awareness and brand center, as well as other wonderful things like Rotary's Learning Center. So it does, because there's many, many visioning events I've been to that I've gone in and done visioning events for clubs, and those members, some of them, they don't have a clue. So it does allow an open door of resources to be shared with them. Now, I want to touch on, yes, the 5 questions in planning. Who are we and where are we? As I mentioned, we try to get that through the RVQ or early on, through the writing exercise or extraction that we receive the ideas of how they look at their club, of what they stand for, or the attributes of their club. But the actual visioning event itself is, where do we want to be? An opportunity to dream, to really think and share the ideas that night or that Saturday or whatever. You come together, whether it be virtually or in person, but to share where you want to be in 1, 2, 3 years from now. Now, how will we get there? That's the action plan. That's one of the parts that we realized we were kind of failing in the past, and we wanted to give them, and we are now providing them through the visioning to success components. But we want to provide them some tools so they give them a way to make their action plan available. And how will we know when we have arrived? Yes, it's real critical. And we do even have a segment of analytics that are available and that we are building on and gathering more information to share within our own realm of the International Visioning Facilitation Council. So continuity and consistency. I mean, it's so important for the annual plans and projects and programs to be discussed and looked at each and every year, and to establish that that group of planning, action, master plan and action plan over a 3-year period of time. And then the continuity of leadership in order to help them, instead of have to reinvent the wheel every time, they realize where our members would like for us to be. And the consistency in the program. How will we get there? So utilizing certain programs and projects that they want to be doing the first year, the second year, and the third. Yeah, so the follow-up will come later as we look at the analysis of it all. And to build consensus. So it does allow us to move toward that in our purpose and action plan by, let's say, voting, having the club members vote of what actions they like to do in order to prioritize. I mean, during a visioning event, whether it be online or in person, there's a lot of great ideas shared. I mean, in each of the major categories of 8 to 11 different categories that you're talking about, those ideas are shared and then voted upon in order to try to figure out and prioritize the top 3. So it's really a cycle. You're talking about establishing a team to go out into a club and do a visioning event for that particular club, to try to figure out what they stand for, but what they could be in the future, and to actually do and give them the long range plan the tools to figure out the master plan and an action plan to follow. And then the cycle of doing the programs, the various different actions, and I'll get into that as well. So throughout a visioning event, we encourage our Rotarians to, let's say, think outside the box. You know, heck, in some cases, they may need to build a whole new box. I mean, things have changed within a lot of those Rotary clubs. And suspend just the practical side, but dream grand dreams. I remember going to several visiting events, small little Rotary clubs here in West Tennessee, and doggone it, if they didn't like want to build, like, let's say, a community center that would really reach out and help their community, and like Greenfield, Tennessee, and Gleason, then they did it, you know. And so if they want to do it, they can do it, you know. They just work hard. So don't limit them to that. Now, the practical sorting, you know, that'll come later. During the event itself, like the virtual event or the in-person type event, that it wouldn't take place in that first 2 hours or 4 hour session, but we help them along the way. I'm going to show a couple of the items, such as the writing exercise, as I mentioned, aligned to the Rotary International's action plan itself. And as well as not only the 4 action plans, we touch on the fundraiser and the Rotary Foundation. And in some cases, a few of the Rotary clubs may have their own club foundation that they have to consider as well. Now, as they work through each of the categories, like the 5 avenues of service, so such as club service. So you find out what the club member wants in the way of fellowship and programs, or community service, what they'd like to do in the way of projects there in their local community, or international service, what they'd like to do far-reaching overseas, for instance, in their own vocation. In many cases, that is probably of the 5 avenues of service, most often forgotten is the vocational service and not contributed to. But to encourage and look at like vocational training teams to be a part of such a wonderful organization of ours. And then, of course, youth services. So round out the 5 avenues of service. So whether it be like youth exchange or RILA or youth scholarships and other youth programs to build toward and cultivate to the future means so much. And that's, our youth is just that. We really need to focus on them. Throughout the extraction, we also share and ask for ideas such as fundraising that they'd want to do within their local club. And then the support to the Rotary Foundation. In many cases, this is where a lot of Rotarians learn about what the Rotary Foundation is all about, some of the programs there within. And in public image, where it's really critical and important to build. Now, as the Rotarian, I'll get to an overview of like the various different roles and some of their responsibilities, but it talks about the extractor is pulling these wonderful ideas of the different categories, and you can get a wealth of super ideas. I mean, they'll be like on the old flip charts, you might fill up the pages of flip charts, and you'd have a runner place the flip charts around the room for them to later vote on with the blue dot, red dot voting. Now, I guess in person you could still do that, but realizing the constraints of COVID and the new process to do them virtually as well, and expands the opportunity to go within their home or office, you know, at a time to do these events instead of coming together face to face. We use SurveyMonkey, or as Lars mentioned earlier, you could use Google Forms. You might also have just sitting on the side in order, just a Word document to fill out. We, as I mentioned earlier, the writing exercise a while ago is sent to you as a PDF. So it's a fillable document. And we provide, the IVFC provides the districts that are in the council, you would get the template of the Survey Monkey for visioning. And your scribe, instead of only standing at the top of the U-shaped table, writing on the various, flip charts, this way they can actually fill out a fillable template online, whether it be out, like we're doing right now, where you fill it out, or even we have even seen in person where they set up with the monitor at the top of the U in the room, and you have the scribe, who's almost like a court reporter, sitting back there typing in all the pertinent information, these great ideas that are shared for the various different categories. So it could be either way, but we do provide you with that fillable document. I won't go in depth about the dot voting. Many of you will be familiar, and we do still do 2 rounds of voting the old way with the flip charts that we post around the room. You have a blue dot voting, which allows the members to vote and kind of see how the voting's going on. We come back and do a second vote with the in-person. It was a red dot. With virtual, it's actually on Survey Monkey. We take one vote, and we come back, take a second vote. Like, we call out the ones that aren't getting as many votes, and the whole intent is trying to prioritize and bring the cream to the crop, the ones that the Rotarians actually want to have and prioritize to be doing over the next 3 years, for instance, 1, 2, or 3 years. And I'll get into that. But anyway, we've adjusted the dot voting somewhat in terms of the numbers, but on a deeper dive, we can talk about that a little bit more in detail, because we've again segmented this more into the Rotary's action plan. So we've readjusted. Instead, everything in the past had 3 votes. This way, it's kind of staggered a little different, such as the what the club's attributes are. The club size, of course, always just had 1, or the avenues of service. It's more lumped together, that sort of thing. But anyway, now the follow-up. This is some of the new stuff, and we'll take some questions once I get past couple more slides. And anyway, on the club visioning to plan, we've come up with some great components to this with the master plan and action plan that I'll talk about in a minute. But we have and assist the club by having this vision event to be able to have a statement of purpose to tie it in to what they're really wanting to be doing, and eventually maybe even to a motto, of their particular club, or a vision that they want to have. We'll still schedule a time, a club assembly, to go back and share what has taken place, whether it be on the virtual event, to engage the other club members that might not have participated, inform them of it, engage them. And again, through the voting process, to still get the consensus of what they really want to do. Really critical to go forth is to assemble that development team to fill out those action steps through the master plan or the action plan. I want to show this one just real briefly, kind of to the side. When we do a vision event, as I opened up, I talked about Rotary International's visioning statement. This is a particular Rotary club that from their visioning event that they did, they came up with their own, let's say they call it the ABCD of Rotary. So it's information that they got from their visioning event of having like what the club stands for, what the attributes of the club are, what are the goals, objectives, things of this sort. But when they start their meeting and they ring the bell and have the prayer and the pledge, they recite the ABCs of Rotary. In this case, affirming the works of Rotary International, building relationships in McKinsey, committed to academic excellence, and dedicated to our youth. Now, you talking about a built-in elevator speech. So when those Rotarians in McKinsey are asked, what is that pin that you are wearing? And it's Rotary. He can talk about what some of the things are that the McKinsey Rotary Club does. So again, it's kind of following through at that point with some wonderful ideas. We do have the visioning to success components. Let me kind of stop for just a quick second, just in case. Bob and Lars, is there any questions that I need to talk on at this point? We're an hour into this, and we still probably got another maybe 30 minutes, or so or less. Want to be mindful of y'all's time. Any questions?
Well, Glenn, thank you. There has been a couple of questions here that I think we have answered. Will this be available? And yes, we are recording it, so people can go back to that. And there's also been questions about the slide deck, and I think you and I can discuss, but we can make that available too to anyone who wants to use it.
Excellent. Now, the good point. I'll be glad to make this information. Of course, this particular slide deck I can send to Lars, send to y'all for you to have. It comprises actually of those early slides, which is the more of the state of Rotary's membership that I just received this week. I want to make it really as current as possible with those numbers. Some of the others are pretty basic, but yes, we can share that. The International Visioning Facilitation Council has a wide variety of various items that we do share with you that, and I can show you how we'll do it, but whether it be through links that you can go to and see other PowerPoint presentations. It actually shows the slides, shows the script of like the various different roles. I'm going to kind of use some of the slides in just a little bit on that particular PowerPoint for you to have. So yeah, you're welcome to have it. Members of the team will be able to also get like what we call the Club Visioning Training Guide, which is a short, concise manual that Lars has, or we as coordinators have for your district teams. And in there, it's full of the hyperlinks where you can go. And then we can do, I'm not going to do that today, but we can do what's called the more of a deeper dive into some of these materials. And again, into, let's say, an hour-long presentation. But in there, I do what's called the website walkthrough of the IVFC's website that's up and available for everybody to see. In there, we've got, in the YouTube videos, we've got a lot of self-tutorials. So like, let's say if you're getting ready to serve on one of the teams and want to brush up and watch one of the tutorials about the presenter, or the tutorial about the extractor or scribe or whatever, you can go to the YouTube video, click on it, watch it, and it's again, the comforts of your home or office at a convenient time for you, instead of, right now, Saturday morning only. But so we'll share that with you. Any other?
Yeah, you should probably also comment that there is our district is has paid the membership fee or subscription fee or whatever we call it for the program. So we have access to all the information. There is sort of a website which gives an overview of a little bit of an appetizer, I guess, of the program. But then as a subscribing district, we also have access to what is behind it and all these documents that Glenn has shown, the templates. And I guess that is what is the advantage of being part of this family, that you get access to the things, don't have to reinvent everything. And we can also make comparisons between various districts and clubs and so on and so forth. That was really, if we go back to the days when we were very active, it was the presidents-elects, when they talked to each other, those were the best salespeople for the program. Successful. Any other questions before we continue? Having seen, heard none. Glenn,
Oh, there's nothing
oh,
in
yeah,
the chat.
Linda, I see Linda raising her hand.
The only thing that I've just enjoyed this so much today. Thank you so much, Glenn, of course, Lars. And one of the questions that I had received is, going forward. But the one thing that hit me this morning was you really need to let somebody else facilitate your own club, because you have biases and dreams of your own. But when you have a facilitator such as Lars, I come in, I hate to put up Lars's too much on that high pedestal, but he's a very relaxed facilitator and trainer, and does an amazing job. So if you're thinking of doing it for your club, think of having somebody come in and facilitate. It's really important.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Linda. I was going to mention that and I forgot about it, so that's great. It's not that we don't believe you can do a good job. It's just that exactly what Linda says, that there is a tendency that if the club is sort of doing it themselves, we all know that there are relationships in our club, and there are some people who are more forceful than others, and so on and so forth. The advantage with a facilitator is really from another club is that she or he will notice and go around the table, whether it is, like Glenn says, a U-shaped table in person, or the people on Zoom call or a virtual call. And then also the facilitators have to remember that they are not supposed to give opinions and tell clubs what they should do. They are there to facilitate and yes, maybe answer questions that come up, how things are. As Glenn said, it's a good learning opportunity to have a club visioning session too, but it is the club that should come up with the grand ideas and dare to think big, because I want to underline what Glenn said, think big. Even a small club can, and we see that, small clubs can come up with fantastic ideas, and Rotary clubs can be facilitators in the community and get the players to come up with money and resources and so on. So what Glenn said there about the community center with the small club in Tennessee is very true.
Yeah, no, good point. Super. I wanted to stop off where I did there and show that that banner, let's say, that the McKenzie Rotary Club, because this way it kind of gives those Rotarians a thought of what they're looking about also, and eventually coming up with a vision statement or a mission statement for the club, something like that. We've had many clubs do that, make their own similar banner, whether it be, a silk like that to hang, or whether it be a pop-up banner like many of them see nowadays and stuff. Now, if you're doing the virtual event, you go up through the, take about 2.5 hours to do a session. Majority of that, of course, 2 hours worth of it, pretty much extraction. And then you maybe end with a Survey Monkey vote on their ideas, send them away, and then, but alerted to look for a second vote on Survey Monkey coming to them. So again, take about 2.5 hours for the first session. Then you could come back, whether it be 2 days later or evenings, or let's say a week later, to come back together. And then you go through the planning process. Now, I want to show here some of the visioning to success components. Now, I'm only going to kind of touch on these as an overview. I'll get a little bit deeper in the planner slide that's maybe like 8 or 10 slides down the deck here. But anyway, and then we've got a real deeper dive on all of the roles to follow up with anyway. But the master plan, where we were missing the boat, quite often in past sessions, we would do the vote, in person and summarize, and you want somebody that really to be exciting, inspirational, to summarize what, let's say, the River City Rotary Club is all about, and how successful it'll be in 3 years. And then we'd walk away from it when that was about it. We left it up to the club. Well, we feel these other components like the master plan and action plan, and helping them work with them, and then eventually analytics plays a really critical role into their success and follow through. So this is again, a fillable document that comes as a PDF that you as a district team shares with the club, and they can fill out of a master plan. So from the various great ideas that they want to do, a club would segment it in what all needs to take place the first year, the second year, and the third year. So this is where the master plan falls in. Where do we want to be? And this is what we need to do during those particular years.
Mhm.
That sort of deal. Well, let's see. Let me advance my, well, I was needing to advance my slide. Hold on. Trying to, okay. Well, excuse me 1 second. My slide's not advancing. Let me come back.
So what we did, and I think I would recommend to still do, because we realized, and I think Virginia will recall this as well, in order to get clubs to get on after the session, we tried to make almost like a contract with the last clubs we facilitated to put deadlines when we would follow up, and very often we tried to get the assistant governors to play a role there too. And I think
Correct.
that is still very important to make sure that the district team actually takes an active role. Not to write down what the club is going to do, but to make sure that it gets done and assisted in it. Anyway, Glenn,
Correct.
back to you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for doing that. When I came out of the share and went back to the PowerPoint, I couldn't get it to advance. But anyway, I've got it now. The action plan is a sort of follow-up piece. Once they determine their master plan, then they do action plans for each of the various categories that are plans that they want. So let's say if it's one to do the pancake breakfast, there may be a whole bunch of different actions that must take place to do the pancake breakfast. So this is again, a fillable form that we provide in the PDF for the club to have, but they actually go through and fill out the who, what, when, and where. So what action needs to take place, what individual would be responsible for like various aspects of the pancake breakfast, such as who's going to line up the tickets, who's going to sell the advertisement, which is the main fundraiser or money maker for the pancake breakfast, who's going to line up, let's say, the venue to have the pancake breakfast, whether it be at the school or the church or community building, who else is going to help, what resources, like what money, might need to, be provided to buy the tickets or to do the placemats or to buy the food, what's the start date of the various ones. So this is actually, again, more of the who, what, when, and where. So how will we get there? They would fill this out. And we actually, as a planner, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, but we go through in the second session, and that second time they come back together, it'll last about an hour, hour and a half of your 4-hour session. Let's say is going to be originally 2.5 hour session, and then this hour, hour and a half session. Anyway, of the planner. Okay, again, all of this is trying to fit it to and align it with Rotary International's action plan of what we're doing for their club and the community and the Rotary world. Now I'm going to touch on now, and again, we can make these slides available, and then they also have the information to share with you, like about the the script, let's say, with it all. Okay, there's actually 2 new roles that are provided in the Club Visioning virtual event, and that is the planner and the technical host. Of course, Bob serving as like in a sense, the technical host today, and appreciate his help and everything with that. And then, like say, you'd have to have a separate person, as the planner as well to be involved. But those are the others have been pretty much the same that we've had in the past, such as the lead, somebody kind of like Lars, putting together this information, coordinating with the group that's going to be called together and coordinating with the club. Then there's the presenter. Of course, we've had that in the past. They're the ones that opens the meeting, maybe can closes the session. The extractor, like I say, and you might have more than one extractor on the team to do an event, because that goes on for about 2 hours. And to extract, whether it's in person or to extract virtually, with the Brady Bunch of everybody on the screen and get them to participate. So you might have one extractor, or you might have a couple of them. The scribe in the past, you've had 2 different scribes writing on the flip chart. In this case, you'd be filling out one with the laptop, filling out like SurveyMonkey or Google Forms, for instance. But to serve as a scribe, you do want somebody that can type pretty quick, that sort of deal, kind of almost like a court reporter. And then, like you mentioned, the planner and tech host is involved as the team. You need probably a minimum of 3 people to actually pull off of an event. Be good to have, all 5, there. Okay, now I'll go on and discuss about the team lead. Again, similar to what Lars is doing today, but he would be the one as like a district chair, or if you got a different district chair coordinator, to work along and make the assignments, the roles of who's going to be what, who's going to be the planner, or the presenter, or the extractor, or the scribe, or the planner. Who's going to serve, as the tech host, that sort of thing. The team lead end up confirming with the club sponsor, or whoever you're really working with that, to make the event available. And whether it be, if it's in person, you know, where the venue is and whether they're going to have a snack dinner, things of this. Virtual, whether you just have it all set up at a particular time and coordinate it with the tech host to do the Zoom event. And then sometimes the lead might be the one that opens and closes the workshops. The lead usually comes back as Lars, you know, would do like a debrief or follow up with the Rotarians of that on that assigned visioning event, that sort of thing. Then you got the presenter. The presenters usually does the opening workshop PowerPoint. The IVFC will provide you a template PowerPoint. It's about 8 or 10 slides, some of which are those earlier slides I've got. You would customize them stating District 7070. You'd customize it stating you're doing it for River City Rotary Club or whatever Rotary Club you're doing it. But that presenter would lead the introduction of the team that's there that day, those 3 or 4 or 5 people from your team. They would end up covering all the pertinent information of the Rotary International, like the visioning statement or just the overview of what visioning is all about. So it's maybe the opening 10 minutes roughly of a 2.5 hour session. Then the extractor comes in, handles it, the extraction of all the members, and getting these great ideas. I mean, you're going to get like, 10, 12, 15 wonderful ideas for each category. I mean, it can go on and on. You don't want to cut them off. You want to probably, in order to stay within time constraints, you want to stay about 8 to 12 minutes per category for you to allow, but don't cut them off until they're really through with ideas. Now, I'll say this, you save a lot of time. Early on, I mentioned about send the writing exercise early, let them fill it out before. That way, it's a fillable document, as I mentioned. That way, you don't have to wait till you get there, or hand it out then for them to think about it. Because in past events, that took up like 30 minutes of your time. Just that is when they were doing the snack dinner or whatever, or breakfast or whatever when you did it. But that took about 30 minutes that you can now lend to the extraction time. It goes quicker. But anyway, so the extractor does that. Extractor watches, let's say, the Brady Bunch, make sure you're getting everybody's idea, encouraging those that aren't participating to talk up and participate and contribute their wonderful ideas, that sort of deal. Have the club representative, kind of like Dave and Lars for me, watching chat or having some other information. See, the good thing about the writing exercise, and this is left up to you as a district or the club itself, but whether you want to send the writing exercise to all of your Rotarians, of course, and receive it even back electronically. See, you could copy and paste it and put it in chat, or copy and paste it and put it in a Word document, some of these ideas. I would not go to those mailed in or electronically mailed in first. I wouldn't do that. You want to pay tribute to the ones in the Brady Bunch that are actually active that day. Get those. But you might have the club representative come back and say, well, John or Jane, it couldn't be with us today because they've gone to their granddaughter's graduation, also sent in this idea for us to consider. And that club representative speaks up and says, yeah, here's another idea to have so-and-so to do something. So that is a possibility where if you send it out in advance, you could receive it, that way, in a sense. But then, okay, and then the scribe, as I mentioned on the scribe, that is one that is pretty tough job in a sense. In the past, you had it all written down on flip charts. This would be filling it out on a SurveyMonkey template. The great thing about it, it would be a little more legible than, like, let's say, a doctor's handwriting out a prescription, for instance, or it's also has spell check on most of the computers anyway. So that is helpful. But the scribe would set up and work with the extractor. They'd set up any kind, the SurveyMonkey tool, the voting tool, that can be utilized, clicking a mouse, sent out to those there in the club that are there on the event, or to everybody in the club, but to actually vote on SurveyMonkey. Again, alerting them it's going to be 2 rounds of voting. So one place that day, and then one place coming like 24 hours later. And then usually the scribe is the one that's going to be the synthesizer that ends up summarizing the great things that River City Rotary Club decided to do over the next 3 years, and comes back the second session, like, to help the planner go through that second version, for instance. Then there is the planner. Like I say, there's the break after about 2.5 hours of the first session. Come back 2 days later or a week later, and the planner would, with the help of either the lead, who can kick it off, or the planner can introduce the visioning to success components, such as the master plan. So he or she, the planner on your team, would talk and show and hand out the fillable master plan for them to have for the club use. It would also hand out an action plan, a copy of the action plan, again, fillable for them. They would coordinate with, like, Bob, the actual tech host. They'd coordinate breakout sessions. So we actually send them, so we don't just give them the 2 documents and be done. We coordinate breakouts, about a 15-minute breakout for the Rotarians of River City, let's say, to fill out an action plan. So if you're in person, you just say, okay, these 2 or 3 people go over in that corner of the room, those 2 go to this corner, those 2 go to that corner, and so forth. All right. Or if you go to send them, like, have your tech host send them into breakout room, and they actually take an action plan, and we give them an example to fill out. I'm going to use the example of, like, youth services. We give you a couple of them though, but let's say youth services, and they selected to support in youth services, let's say Raleigh. They want to send 2 students to Raleigh camp next spring, for instance. So those 2 people, or 3, whoever's gone into that breakout session that the tech host sends them to, they actually fill out the action plan with that example. So they go through the who, what, when, and where of what needs to be done in that particular action plan itself, for instance. So then they call them back together after about 15 minutes, and they have somebody report of that breakout. They have somebody report. Now, if you end up doing different plans, let's say you got a pretty good sized group. Let's say you got 24 people there back for the planner session, or let's say just a dozen people have come back for the planner session, and you divided that up into pairs. Heck, you can have filled out 6 examples of the action plan. Now they end up having to do a lot of action plans. Usually we're going to get 3 actions per category. So there's 8 main categories. So they're going to have to end up doing about 24 all in all. That hour-and-a-half session, they're only going to go through 1, do a practice for 1. They do enroll and ask for volunteers when they come back from the to report out from their breakout. They also enroll volunteers for the next steps, which also deals with the visioning to success components. So like who's going to set up the club assembly? That would be held in a matter of a few weeks when it can be arranged. Who's going to be in charge of the club development team? Like the various different committees. Some clubs are going to already have them segmented, different committees. Some won't have been organized at all, so they've got to set that up. And then usually the planner is the one that closes the whole session out as well. And again, that lasts about an hour to an hour and a half. The last and new role of the two new roles is the technical host. So, he or she would host the meeting. You do need to have somebody that knows Zoom and knows his protocol of how to do the screen sharing, the breakout rooms, or admitting people. As he has done outstanding today to be able to have people come in, address any particular technical issues or glitches, might watch chat, as Lars and Bob are doing. As I mentioned, it turns out on chat, you could copy and paste some of the ideas, so it can be received by, like on a virtual platform here in chat. You can copy and paste that to a Word document. You probably, if the technical host is not the scribe, then he would not be, he'd be able to have to put it on a Word document and not, because only one person can be on that, let's say, SurveyMonkey document at a time. All right, and then the technical host also is serving as the backup to display anything, such as the PowerPoint presentations, things of this sort. Even though he's allowed me to be a co-host and I've shared my screen to follow it, so he didn't have to follow my script or watch what I was saying, that sort of thing. So anyway, that kind of concludes the various roles. There's 6 of them, 5 that actually help take place. Once the lead puts it together, you got the others, like the presenter that kicks off the first session, the extractor, followed up with the scribe taking info. And then in the second session, you end up having such as the planner, which is real critical follow-up in that second session. And the technical host would be utilized in both. I'm showing, of course, Lars is y'all's visioning coordinator from the IVFC, serving in zones 28 and 32, and his email address there to be shared. That's for y'all to have that sort of thing. But again, I'd be glad to open it back up to any questions that y'all might have on this at this point. Surely would.
Well, thank you, Glenn. An excellent presentation. As I said, RI President Wolf certainly knew how to find talent. So thank you, Wolf, for giving Glenn all these opportunities to develop his leadership skills. So questions, comments around the table. Linda.
I just wanted to, oops, I think I'm on mute.
No.
Oh, you're good. Now you're muted. Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to ask Glenn, I looked at the new action plan PDF that he put forth. And I guess I have used the Ishikawa diagrams when I have done some sessions. Is there any thought gone into using that tool as an action diagram at all?
Oh, yeah, it could have been. Kathy Smith and Rita Esterly, they are our curriculum committee. They report back to our team of, actually it's 13 of us on the XCOM committee with IVFC. They may have looked at that. I can raise that to them. We, like I say, we are trying to align our stuff as much possible, not to be confusing to Rotary International. So that is a good point. Actually, we're meeting Monday. Joe Kavark, who is my counterpart on the training team, with Kathy and Rita. So I'll raise that question. But
it's just a very visual tool. You know, when you draw the fish and you do your action plans off of the fish and the prongs, it's fast, easy, and, you know, easy to go around the room using the nominal group technique. It's just a thought.
That's a good, no, excellent suggestion. Excellent suggestion. Now, thank you. And I'll share that with them. And you mentioned that, I'll say, kind of takes me back to the in-person sessions. When I was RC starting in 13 through 16 for Ron Burton, Gary Wong, and Ravi Ravindran, for those 3 years, that's where I really had learned about visioning early on in 13 and thought, man, this is a good membership tool. So at that time, we had 4 districts in what's called the Heart of America that were doing strategic planning at the club level, offering teams, and we ran with it. We went out of our, we ended up training 22 additional districts on out to 26 of our 31 that we've got. And every time we did one, we'd get, you know, great ideas, kind of like Linda's reference there. And we'd have to tweak something. So that's what I really enjoyed, the opportunity in this position to hear the great things going on in districts and clubs. Larry?
Yeah. Before we let Larry come in, Linda, what is also, I think, a matter of making sure that we know what we're doing. So there is a manual and a thought process behind this, and there are other things, or it can be complemented, but at least, you know, we have a standard set of activities, but like everything else, it is a living document, and good ideas can always be incorporated in this. So Larry, yeah, please.
Yeah, thanks, Lars. Thanks, Glenn. One of the challenges, my club's been through this 3 times, and I'm also part of other all volunteer organizations that have been through the same experience. Different model, but same principles as what we do here. And one of the challenges that I've really found is that our ambition exceeds our ability to implement, especially being volunteers, all volunteer organizations. We're highly aspirational by nature. We want to do everything. But a good plan should be a filter that tells us not only what we will focus on, but what we will not do. And that part of it has been really tough, I have found, for those of us who aspire to be all things to all people, to build into the plan. So as a result, we run the risk of setting ourselves up for failure. And then the document becomes discouraging rather than empowering. And I've experienced this, unfortunately. And how do we build that kind of reality check into the process so that at the end of the visioning process, yes, we're going to be inspired, but we're also set up for success because we have a plan that we actually have the capacity to implement.
Oh, yeah, excellent question and points made. Hopefully having the action plan, the master plan, the action plan will assist a club in doing that. Of course, the whole idea of going through 2 votes, not just trying everything. We're wanting to try to prioritize to only like maybe as many as 3 items per category. So, but I think it is real critical. I think the planner needs to cover things like Larry just mentioned. Yeah, don't set yourself up for failure. Try the things that are really, you know, that you can do. And you saw on the action plan, on the master plan, it's segmented in 1, 2, and 3 years. Some of that stuff might be a one and done thing, and some of it might be redone each and every month or each and every year. that sort of thing. So really what's workable. We actually have, I didn't put it in the PowerPoint, but we do have in YCO that looks really confusing, but there is a kind of a flow map, kind of almost like a calendar of events throughout that 3-year process that we use here in Tennessee that they can follow, you know, in quick reference to. But good point, you know, on that, Larry.
I think what maybe is another area of things not happening, and that is evaluating or looking back at the plan on a regular basis, and just make sure to find out, well, this didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? I actually deal with that in my corporate activity, the frustration of that we bid on projects and so on and so forth, and nothing happens, but no one is really evaluating why didn't we get that thing. Anyway, Ken and then Sharon.
That was a great statement, Larry. When you said that, I instantly thought of our club because we're a fairly small club, and we try to put on these massive Rib Fest, and it can be very challenging. Anyways, a couple of things. One, I love the Mackenzie banner. That was a great idea. We just celebrated our 70th anniversary last year. And we sort of celebrated it between COVID-1, COVID-3, and COVID-4. So we managed to squeeze it in person. And I had one of the members read our, the Rotary 4-way test that's been around for a long time. But I think your envision statement on your banner even is more important these days than the 4-way test. But I wondered if, you talk to so many clubs these days, what's the number one issue? And guaranteed 9 out of 10, it's membership. And sometimes what's more important is, and which we saw in your beginning slides, what's more important is getting new members or retaining members. It looks like they're just as important. It's kind of a 50-50 split. But have you seen that after a club has gone through a visioning statement and now they have a clear vision of where they're going, that their membership has increased?
Yes. We've got analytics to that. On our committee with the IVFC, the Tom Ripida in Illinois and Michael Eriksman and Minnesota have done some real good analytics, but that definitely does help. Matter of fact, y'all were talking earlier. It's really good to have, like, when you can, at district events, whether it be at a district assembly or district conference in person or on Zoom, to have best practices, have somebody from that club that has participated and have them just do a little segment, or maybe even in the governor's newsletter to give a, feedback of how much it meant to them. But yes, it definitely helps get them organized. We've got several that have come back around and wanted to do it again. So now, of course, we've been doing it long enough too, where you want to do them about every 3 years anyway. I'd use as a district goal, if you could get 25% of your clubs to go through an event per year, which in our case, we have 60 Rotary clubs. That would, excuse me, that'd be about 15 per year, so one a month. But then come back and do it again too. But yeah, it has really helped by having them. And plus it puts them, again, not having to reinvent the wheel each and every time, for instance.
Thank you.
Sharon and Josie.
Thank you, Lars. I just want to echo Larry Watmore's comment. I agree with him that, our clubs are always been very invigorated. We really want to do a lot of things, especially the Rotary Club of Etobicoke. We extend ourselves. Quite often as a facilitator for strategic planning, one of the tools that I use is called Grow. I ask the group to think about, how do you want to grow your club? You know, the R stands, are they realistic? Are we able and capable of doing this within our membership? And then what are the opportunities that lie within our club or that we might have access to facilitate this growth in realistic manner? And then the most important thing is the W, the will. Is there the will at the club? Because if your club members don't buy into it, then it won't get done. So you have to consult and say, members, do we have the will to do this? Do we want to grow in this manner? Is it realistic? Are there opportunities to help us to get there? And so quite often I find that this acronym GROW is very positive and it's easy to remember. And so I thought I would share that with this group, and that perhaps, you know, we might incorporate some of that.
Correct. Sharon, I appreciate that. Now, that and then Larry's previous question too. Well, point well made, and I want to expand on it. For those that have done these events in the past, or even you probably, if you'd really look at this, even with the new event structure, we do not spend a lot of time on membership. We don't spend hardly any time, and it deserves a whole bunch of time. So by following through and doing a whole nother event, nothing but membership. Now, as I mentioned, I strongly feel this is an excellent membership tool, but it also helps Rotary Foundation, public image. I mean, a whole bunch of stuff, you know, to build that opportunity to provide value to our members of our Rotary clubs, again, to make it worth the drive each and every week to a meeting. We actually have got a separate membership initiative. I love hearing what, and I'd like to talk further with Sharon about GROW. Our membership opportunity actually was what spun off Rita and our committee to look at, we need to do more follow through with what we call the vision to success components, which is that master plan and action plan. The simplicity, as she mentioned, Sharon did, is very critical, but actually we've set that in the membership opportunities separately, you know, as they come back and do a different 2-hour session on nothing but that. It can be done virtually. I would like to talk to you sometime about GROW, Sharon.
I love that. I am at sharonlee.rotary@gmail.com, and I'll try to look you up as well, Glenn.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll provide Glenn's contact information. But I again would also like to make sure that everyone has understood that this process is evolving. One of the nice things with the arrangement is that every club member has an opportunity to participate in the process, and it is the club that comes up with the document. So hopefully some of those issues that both Larry and Sharon have raised come up in the process, because otherwise I would think that we have failed with our vision. And at the same time, I noticed that our district governor nominee, or whatever you are, John, because I can't keep up in my drunken stupor what is happening. But anyway, John, you said something about that clubs need to have some challenges too. So maybe that. Josie.
Good morning, and thank you, Glenn. I really, really appreciated this presentation, and I'm glad I'm here for this training. As I listened to you and followed the process, I reviewed in my head my last year and a half as president of my club. And I'd like to share just a couple of things, because when I first was elected, myself and the president-elect, we formulated a vision, so to speak, a growth plan for 2 years for our club. And and so with elements in there following the different areas of the Rotary. And then last year, at the end of my first year of tenure, I reviewed with my club, and from there we set where we wanted to be at the end of this year. However, listening to you, what I'm taking away today, and also what Larry mentioned, and the other person also mentioned just before the Etobicoke comments, is that the important part here is building the consensus with all the members. All the members have to participate in it. It's just not a leadership thing. The leader can lead, but in order for the ownership to arrive and to at the products, the accomplishments, every club member has to buy into it. And that's what I will take away as the key part, because within my own club, yes, we followed our little plan, but the weaknesses are there. And I feel that, and Brandon Pratt, one of our new members, we added 3 members this past year and a half, is also present today. I feel that we are in our small club at the point where we can go further now in fully having a vision process to help our club grow from a small club into a bigger club. And I really, I really appreciated that. And especially the 2-vote part of the plan that you put forth, Glenn, I see that as a key point. So thank you.
Oh,
Really appreciate it.
you're welcome. Thank you. Again, best practices, follow up, let the other clubs know around you that y'all have had successful programs. You stirred that excitement about planning ahead. Maybe sometimes it doesn't quite follow through and go as planned, but just hopefully, just put it back together and continue on, that sort of thing. I'll say this too, possibly have go within your own district team to go to those clubs in order to get some under your belt, let's say, in terms of the successful events. And then it'll actually snowball on you in terms of more and more clubs. They'll hear that Franklin's done it, or Murfreesboro or Nashville or various ones. It's like, well, we want to do it too, that sort of thing. Terry? Terry, you're muted for some reason. It's not muted, but we can't hear you.
Terry Caputo. Well, Terry tries to figure out what I would like to add too is that.
Can you hear me now?
Whenever.
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, you got it. Thank you. Sorry. So I love this process. But I keep coming back. I come back to what Larry said and my own experience. And I think, and then sharing the will, I think is probably the most important piece. And I think that as a district, we have to determine, like, are clubs ready to get into this process? Like, it's not worth putting a club, because this is heavy lifting when it comes to really thinking, right? It's heavy lifting, and it may not be worth putting a number of clubs through the process if they're not mature enough to be through the process. I think there are a lot of factors going against a successful strategic planning process. And you mentioned some of the leadership change every year. So really, if a plan is to be successful, it probably needs to be 3 years, and you have to have the current, the next in line, and the one before that all aligned, right?
Yeah.
And continue that alignment. All clubs are autonomous from RI, so they can do what they want, and they may just not want to go through a process like this. we're battling time. Everyone's time is being eaten up by more and more things. And so I think we have to make sure that if we're going to take the time, it's going to be valuable. And I don't know if there's an accountability process in place for clubs. Like, who holds clubs accountable for the process, the success or not? Like this, it's not like, you know, your board of directors could fire the club members, you know, tell them to leave because they're not doing, you know, what they should do. So I think there are a lot of things going against the process being successful. So the club has to be at a certain maturity level. And maybe as a district, we need to determine what is that, you know, what's our checklist to say, clubs, if you check off these 5 things, we think you're ready for strategic planning, so that we're not wasting people's time.
Correct. No, good point, Terry. And you brought it excellent. And actually, we have that in the manual, some recommendations like who needs to be there. If your leadership team is not on board with this, then no, you don't even need to do it. You need to have like your immediate past presidents, your president-elect, you know, the board willing and wanting to do it. You actually have to have them there. If in terms of those key spots like the president-elect, in order to follow through. Those that if you don't have buy-in, don't even do it. In the manual, it does tell you like a number, a minimum of how many and who you might look at. I personally say, hey, invite them all. You know, an average Rotary Club is 36 members. You won't get all 36 there. You may get 24, you know, that'd be great. I mean, even if it's in person, 24 around the U-shaped table is fine. Or in the Zoom Brady Bunch that we've got together right now, here's 25 on this one screen, and we had many more than that earlier. But so it is doable. We have done it for even more than that. So yeah, I'm recommend the more the better, but definitely if they're not willing to do it, you know, don't do it if they're leadership. And I'll say this, some of the best ones I've seen are even the new clubs that the new young professionals that didn't have a clue of what Rotary was. Number one, they learned more about Rotary, but we learned more about great ideas, what they wanted to do in their own communities, things of this sort.
But I think it is also important, Terry and everyone else, to state that this is not something that the district is forcing on. What we have here is a program that we offer clubs, and whether or not clubs are ready, I would say that the club is ready if they feel that they need some kind of strategic planning, and this is one way of doing it. It may be something that can be done, and like when Virginia and I worked with actually Larry's club about, what is it, 6-7 months ago, we took basically a component of this to update a plan that had been done earlier. So you know, don't leave this meeting thinking that the district is forcing this upon the clubs. It is the clubs that can come to us if they feel that they want to do a visioning session, and hopefully then whether they carry out the visioning session and then of various reasons find that, well, we can maybe not do all the things, at least they have found that out. So there, and as I said in my opening remarks, that there are different ways of doing this, but I think every club benefits from the fact that they have a goal to aim at, whether it is 2-3 years forward or just so it's a tool that is offering that we're offering the clubs.
Nancy?
Thank you. Our club went through this process in 2018, and we're a rather small club. And at the time, the people who initiated it were the leaders in our club. Due to career changes, moves, they left our club. So not only did we have the changeover with presidents and our executive, the people who initiated it had moved on. However, that being said, it's been really validating for our club to go back to the plan that we had and to review it and say, look what we have accomplished. We identified goals, we achieved them. Times change. So some of the goals we identified in 2018 are no longer as relevant. So it was a roadmap for our club for sure, and very beneficial. We haven't been tied to it like a chain, but it's been a roadmap for us. And I feel our club's ready to now start with the next round of a visioning session. So I would encourage clubs to consider it.
That's great. That's great. Super. Appreciate that. Surely do. Sharon?
Yes, I just want to echo all the comments that's been commented and that I agree. I also want to circle back to what Terry Caputo and Larry Whatmore were saying about our clubs. I think that right now, what we need is a strategic plan that is sort of a transition plan, because I look at many of the clubs that I've visited as current president and connected with, and we're all facing sort of similar barriers, that there are a sort of an invisible divide in our clubs, because we have one group of people who've been together for a very long time, but they're aging out. And then we have another group of people who are coming in, and sometimes they don't connect. And so I think when we do a strategic plan and using that grow factor, we have to find the common ground to bring the two groups together and align and understand that there's certain things that each group would like to do. Like for the young professionals like myself, you know, we really enjoy the new technology, Zooming and things like that, because we have very busy lives. And for the older group, they like face-to-face, which is really great because I enjoy that too. But I often find it very hard to say to my board chair that I'm going to have to take 2 hours off in the middle of the day to do a luncheon or some event. And so I think we have to be very flexible and meet the needs and the desires of both groups, but make them come together so that we're one and we're not divided. It's not them and us, it's a we. How are we aligned together? How are we going to come together, and to continue that Rotary continues long after, you know, I age out of the group and not here anymore, right? So I think we have to think about those terms. Thank you.
Super. Oh, excellent. Yeah, the I think really, I think those are good points made and everything, and everyone's going to be different. Every club, of course, is different too, you know, so some will be struggling. I mean, there's going to be some situations where the clubs, they don't know even how to dream. They don't know Rotary enough. And that, you know, that's where this plays a good tool to inform them, send out. And we do encourage send out knowledgeable information, again, about the Rotary Foundation or club models and various things to share with them in advance of an event itself. But and then to get new ideas, new information from these younger clubs. But like you said, transitional aspect, because we're in the midst of all this right now, the last 2 years, and I'm afraid it's not going to end overnight either, you know, that sort of thing. In developing your team, I'd also really take a look at it geographically. I don't know your district. I know ours of District 6760 here in Tennessee, even though I work along with, you know, 31 different districts in the heart of America, from the Gulf Coast to the Great Lakes and from Ohio to Oklahoma. But the district, we hopefully get back someday on in-person events. So your team members on the visioning team in the district don't have to travel far. Try to get people that, like in the western part or eastern part or northern part of your districts, to be able to team up and provide the service. That way you don't have, again, a lot of travel expenses if you're getting back to in person. Now, dealing with Zoom, that's not a problem, you know, because again, the conveniences of time and comforts of one's home or office to come together, that sort of deal.
Well, Glenn, in our district, it is whether you're in the Metro Toronto area or outside the Toronto area. You know, to get around in Toronto takes as much time as driving across the district. But anyway, it's 11 o'clock in our world. It's 10 o'clock for you. I just want to say what will happen is that we will make both the recording, of course, is available, but we'll also make the slide deck available to everyone who participated today. There will be a link coming out of SurveyMonkey. Very few questions. How you found this presentation, what can be better, what we did well, and so on and so forth. But also an opportunity to indicate if you are interested in being a member of this team. And I want to underline the fact that we are only working with those who want to work with us on this. We offer an opportunity for clubs to do visioning or strategic planning, but we don't force clubs to do it this way. But if you're interested, we will call a special meeting with those who express interest and find a date with Glenn when he can go deep down in the various roles and so on and so forth. So with that, I want to thank Glenn for doing an excellent job. He did this for us in District 50/50 as well. And I know that he's done it throughout the Rotary world. So he is the star when it comes to training. And I want to thank Bob for being the tech host. That is the key role. And I want to thank everybody for taking 2 hours of your valuable time to come up and participate in this event and share your views, and please let us know what you think about it. So thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Glenn. Good to meet you again.
Good to meet you. Thank you very much. Y'all stay warm up there. I don't see how y'all do it. Like I say, we're in store for a 4 to 6 inch snow tonight here. We don't get that much in the Mid-South.
You keep it. Yeah.
Keep it.
Otherwise, we'll send our cold down.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.